Beelzebub, the prince of demons. Whispers of a name feared across time, Beelzebub. A title shrouded in darkness, power, and deception. First mentioned in the Bible, Beelzebub appears in Matthew 12 verse 24, where the Pharisees accuse Jesus of casting out demons by his power. In Mark 3 verse 22, he is called the Prince of Demons, a leader among the forces of darkness. But where did this entity come from? The origins of Beelzebub trace back to Baal-zebub, the Philistine god of Ekron, referenced in 2 Kings 1 verses 2-3. Worshippers sought him for prophecy, but in time his name became synonymous with corruption and filth, meaning Lord of the Flies. In history and legend, Beelzebub reigns as one of Satan's highest commanders, a ruler of demonic legions. His influence spreads deception, pride, and false worship, leading souls astray through lies and temptation. Some believe he played a role in the fall of humanity, whispering deceit into the ears of kings and rulers. His atrocities are many, fueling idolatry, spreading pestilence, and corrupting leaders to wage war against the divine. Early Christian texts claim he is a prince of hell, second only to Satan, commanding armies of fallen angels in the war against God. Yet his name has not faded. In exorcisms, priests invoke his name as a dominant force of possession. Stories of medieval demonology rank him as one of hell's most cunning minds, a master of manipulation who feeds on human weakness. Even today, Beelzebub lingers in modern culture, his presence felt in literature, horror films, and occult circles. From John Milton's Paradise Lost to Hollywood's depictions of demonic possession, his legend endures. But no darkness is absolute. The Bible warns against his deceit, urging believers to resist the forces of evil. James 4 verse 7 proclaims, "Resist the devil, and he will flee from you." The power of faith, the name of Christ, and the strength of divine protection serve as shields against him. A prince of demons. A master of corruption. A name whispered in fear and cast out in the name of righteousness. Beelzebub. Lucifer. Once a magnificent angel of light, he stood among the highest in heaven. But pride consumed him. He sought to ascend above God, declaring, "I will be like the Most High." In an instant, war erupted in heaven. Michael and his angels fought, and Lucifer was cast down like lightning, exiled to the earth. Now known as Satan, the adversary, he became the great deceiver, tempting Eve in the garden, corrupting nations and leading souls astray. He prowls like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour, whispering lies into the hearts of men. From ancient Babylon to the wilderness where he dared to test Christ, his influence is undeniable. Throughout history he has taken many forms: serpent, dragon, prince of darkness. His atrocities are countless, inciting war, destruction, and idolatry. He is the ruler of demons, the father of lies, the architect of rebellion. Religions across the world acknowledge him: Christianity, Islam, Judaism, each warning of his deception. His shadow looms in culture, from literature to film, whispered in conspiracy theories and occult teachings. But his fate is sealed. The lake of fire awaits. Yet he still fights, seeking to blind, to ensnare. But there is power in resistance. Submit to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. The war is not over, but his defeat is certain. Abaddon, Apollyon, the angel of the abyss. In the depths of biblical prophecy, one name echoes with fear: Abaddon, also known as Apollyon, the angel of the abyss. A figure shrouded in mystery, his name in Hebrew means destruction, while in Greek, Apollyon translates to the destroyer. In the book of Revelation 9 verse 11, he is the ruler of the bottomless pit, commanding an army of demonic locusts unleashed upon the earth to torment those who do not bear the seal of God. His origin is debated. Some see him as a fallen angel, others as an agent of divine judgment, a force of chaos under God's command. Ancient Jewish texts, including the Talmud and the Book of Enoch, describe him as a dark angel presiding over the realm of the dead. His presence is felt throughout biblical history, not as a deceiver like Satan, but as an executioner of divine wrath. His atrocities are unparalleled, unleashing relentless suffering upon humanity, bringing pain so unbearable that men will long for death but will not find it. Unlike Satan, who tempts and corrupts, Abaddon destroys. Within the demonic hierarchy, his status remains contested. Some believe he serves Satan, while others claim he is a direct instrument of God's judgment, neither fully good nor evil, but a harbinger of destruction. Different religions and traditions paint him in various lights. In Christian eschatology, he is an agent of the apocalypse. In Judaism, he is associated with Sheol, the realm of the dead. and in occult traditions he is a force of annihilation, feared and revered. His influence extends beyond scripture. His name appears in literature, occultism, and even modern media, symbolizing doom and devastation. From Milton's Paradise Lost to horror films, his legend endures, embodying the terror of the unknown. There is no biblical record of Abaddon being exorcised or defeated, for he is not a tempter to be cast out. He is a force to be endured, a prophecy waiting to unfold. Symbolically, he represents the abyss of chaos, the final reckoning before the end. He is not just a demon, he is the shadow of judgment itself. The Bible warns of the horrors to come, urging believers to remain steadfast. In Ephesians 6 verse 11, we are told to put on the full armor of God, for the day of darkness will come. And when it does, Abaddon will rise once more. Asmodeus, the demon of lust and destruction. Asmodeus, a name that evokes fear and fascination, is one of the most notorious demons in religious lore, particularly within the ancient and biblical context. Known as the demon of lust, destruction, and chaos, Asmodeus's story unfolds across various ancient texts and religious traditions. Biblically, Asmodeus is most prominently featured in the Book of Tobit, where his influence is felt as he becomes the demon behind the death of Sarah's 7 husbands. Each man, plagued by Asmodeus, was struck down on their wedding night, unable to consummate their marriages, their lives stolen by the dark force of lust and malice. This demon is also mentioned in extra-biblical sources such as the Talmud, and his name is often tied to the darker aspects of human desire and destruction. Asmodeus is believed to have originated in Persian or Babylonian mythology, where he was depicted as a spirit of wild passion, chaos, and destruction. Asmodeus' role is not that of a mere seducer, but rather a destroyer, manipulating lust to unravel the very fabric of relationships and order. He is the embodiment of unchecked desire, his power corrupting not only the flesh but the soul. In the ancient world, he was feared as a being capable of stirring moral and spiritual decay through his influence over human passions. In the demonic hierarchy, Asmodeus is often seen as a prince, one of the high-ranking demons who serves to sow discord and destruction across humanity. Throughout history, Asmodeus has been associated with numerous atrocities. His most infamous act remains the torment of Sarah, whose life was filled with sorrow due to his relentless curse. But beyond this, Asmodeus is said to inspire various forms of perversion and chaos in human societies, distorting the divine purpose of love and union. His presence is felt in moments of indulgence, where desire becomes an obsession, ultimately leading to ruin. In religious traditions, Asmodeus is a terrifying figure. Christianity and Judaism view him as an agent of evil, a demon that thrives on human weaknesses. He is not merely a destroyer of bodies, but of souls, twisting human desires into something destructive and consuming. In more modern interpretations, Asmodeus continues to be a symbol of human excess, the dark force that tempts individuals away from virtue and leads them to their own demise. While Asmodeus may not often be directly confronted in biblical texts, exorcisms and later Christian traditions claim to have banished his influence. His defeat, however, lies not just in rituals but in the active resistance against the forces he represents. Religious teachings warn that the protection from such a demon comes through virtue, self-control, and devotion to God. By resisting the lure of lust and desiring what is pure and holy, one shields themselves from his destructive influence. Symbolically, Asmodeus represents the dangers of unbridled passion. His presence in esoteric teachings reminds us of the consequences when desire controls the individual rather than the individual controlling desire. His story serves as both a warning and a call for spiritual discipline, urging all who hear his name to turn from temptation and walk the path of righteousness. In the modern world, Asmodeus continues to haunt literature, film, and pop culture, where he is depicted as a seducer, a corrupter, and a symbol of destruction. His legacy endures, reminding us that the greatest dangers often come not from the outside but from within. Legion, the army of demons. In the annals of biblical history, one name strikes fear and intrigue: Legion. This demon, not singular but a vast army, is a terrifying symbol of spiritual oppression and chaos. The name Legion originates from the New Testament, specifically in the Gospels of Mark and Luke, where Jesus encounters a man possessed by a multitude of demons. "For we are many," the demon declared, revealing the extent of its hold on the man, and the name Legion was born, drawing from the Roman military term for a large group of soldiers, signifying the overwhelming number of demons inhabiting the victim. Historically, Legion's origins lie not just in the Bible, but in ancient cultures where demons and evil spirits were often seen as collective forces of destruction. Ancient folklore speaks of demonic forces that work together to wreak havoc on individuals and nations. This dark mythos found its way into the New Testament, where Legion's nature was revealed, an army of malevolent spirits that sought to destroy the soul from within. In the biblical narrative, Legion's role was clear, a force of destruction, torment, and isolation. The possessed man lived among tombs, unable to be contained by chains or shackles, a visual representation of how sin and evil can overpower and confine the human spirit. The demon's acts were brutal, no peace, no rest, only suffering and pain. But when Jesus arrived, the tide of torment was reversed. With a simple command, he cast the demons into a herd of pigs, driving them to a watery grave. In this singular act, Legion was defeated, humbling even the most formidable force of darkness. Within the demonic hierarchy, Legion holds a unique place. It is not a solitary demon, but a collective of forces working under a singular command. Its power lies in unity, numerous evil spirits bound together in a shared mission to destroy. It is a reminder that evil often operates not in isolation but in numbers, its influence far-reaching and insidious. Christianity views Legion as a symbol of the ultimate struggle between good and evil. It serves as a warning about the dangers of spiritual oppression and the overwhelming power of God to overcome even the most terrifying forces. In modern culture, Legion's influence can be seen in literature, films, and even conspiracy theories, often representing the idea of inner torment, possession, and the overwhelming nature of evil. But despite its terrifying power, the story of Legion's defeat is a powerful message of hope. It reminds us that no force, no matter how vast, is beyond the reach of God's power. In theology, Legion symbolizes the dangers of allowing evil to invade and take control, but also the immense power of faith to overcome such forces. For those seeking protection, the Bible offers clear warnings. Prayer, faith in Jesus, and resisting temptation are key to defending against such overwhelming evil. The story of Legion is a testament to the belief that no matter the darkness, the light of God can cast it out and restore peace. Legion's story is not just about demons, it's about the battle for the soul, the victory of light over darkness, and the eternal power of faith. Lilith, the night demon. The story of Lilith, the dark figure shrouded in mystery and controversy, weaves through ancient mythologies, biblical texts, and modern interpretations. Her origins are a complex tapestry that stretches back before written scripture, rooted in pre-biblical folklore and Sumerian myths, where she was seen as a night demon or spirit associated with disease, death, and seduction. In some of the earliest accounts, Lilith is depicted as a demon who preys on infants and women during childbirth, feeding on their blood and life force. Though not explicitly mentioned in the canonical Bible, Lilith's name is often linked to a single ambiguous reference in Isaiah 34 verse 14, where a creature called Lilith is mentioned as a haunting, desolate figure in a destroyed wilderness. Some scholars believe this refers to a night demon, while others suggest it's a mistranslation or a metaphor. Despite the absence of clear biblical references, the myth of Lilith has flourished in Jewish mysticism, particularly in the Kabbalah and Talmudic texts, where she is portrayed as Adam's first wife, created equally but rebellious. Refusing to submit to Adam, she fled the Garden of Eden and became a symbol of defiance and dark independence. Throughout history, Lilith's role has evolved. In some traditions, she is a seductive temptress who entices men to sin, while in others, she is seen as a demoness who corrupts and destroys. In ancient times, she was often linked to the unclean spirits, wandering at night and causing harm to newborn children and mothers, representing a dark force that defied creation and order. Her atrocities are tied to her legend as a bringer of chaos. She is often depicted as a figure who undermines relationships, steals the souls of babies, and leads men into destructive desires. In medieval and later occult traditions, Lilith is considered a part of the demonic hierarchy, a powerful and feared entity among fallen angels or rebellious spirits. Culturally, Lilith's influence stretches beyond ancient texts. In Jewish, Christian, and Islamic traditions, she is variously viewed with fear, fascination, or condemnation. Christianity tends to focus on her as a demon, while Jewish folklore portrays her as a misunderstood or vengeful figure. In modern times, Lilith has been reclaimed as a feminist icon, representing independence, strength, and defiance of traditional gender roles. Lilith's symbolic meaning transcends mere mythology. She is a figure of transformation, often seen as the embodiment of untamed desire and the forces of darkness that lurk just beyond the veil of human understanding. Her symbolism speaks to the fear of the unknown, the chaotic nature of creation, and the consequences of defying divine order. In the Bible and religious teachings, there is no specific mention of how to protect against Lilith's influence, but her presence in exorcisms, folklore, and mystical practices suggests that invoking the protection of divine light and adhering to righteous living are ways to shield oneself from her power. Lilith represents a force of temptation and darkness that is both feared and revered, remaining one of the most enigmatic figures in religious and cultural history. Samael, the angel of death and accuser. In the ancient texts and mystical traditions, there exists a figure both feared and revered, Samael, the angel of death and accuser. His name, often misunderstood, carries with it a weight of darkness and destruction. While not explicitly mentioned in the Bible, Samael's presence looms large in Jewish mysticism and other esoteric writings, making him one of the most enigmatic figures in religious lore. He is sometimes identified with the angel of death, a being tasked with guiding souls from the mortal realm into the afterlife, but also with the role of accuser, much like Satan himself, standing before God to challenge the purity of humanity. The origins of Samael trace back not only to Jewish texts but also to ancient beliefs where deities or angels were associated with death and judgment. In the Kabbalah, Samael is said to be one of the archangels, yet a figure of duality, both a destructive force and an instrument of divine justice. Some legends even suggest that he was once an angel of light who fell from grace due to his harsh and unyielding nature. In biblical accounts, Samael's role is less clear, yet his influence is felt throughout Scripture. He is often portrayed as a destroyer, an executioner of God's will, wielding power over life and death. In apocryphal texts, Samael is linked to the fall of Adam and Eve, subtly influencing events with his dark, accusatory presence. In Talmudic and Kabbalistic traditions, Samael becomes a symbol of evil, a being who doesn't merely tempt, but judges and condemns with relentless precision. His atrocities are many, and while direct biblical references are sparse, Samael is often associated with the suffering and death of the innocent. He is linked to the plagues that befell Egypt and even to the punishment of humankind during the days of Noah. It's said that Samael's very gaze can bring death to the living, a force that coldly separates souls from their earthly bodies. In the demonic hierarchy, Samael is not a servant or subordinate to Satan but stands as a powerful figure in his own right. In some traditions he is seen as an independent entity, equal to or even greater than other fallen angels. His power lies in his ability to challenge God's will, testing the faith and righteousness of humanity. Culturally, Samael is a figure that embodies the fear of death and the unknown. In Christianity, he's often linked to the Grim Reaper, an agent of God's final judgment. In Judaism, however, he's viewed with more complexity, sometimes seen as a necessary force within God's creation, carrying out tasks of purification through destruction. Across various religious practices, Samael's role can be unsettling, as he stands as both accuser and executioner, an impartial force who ensures the balance between life and death is maintained. Modern references to Samael appear in films, literature, and conspiracy theories, often portraying him as a dark figure, a harbinger of doom. From occult writings to popular culture, Samael is seen as a symbol of power, a reminder of death's inevitable march. But in the face of Samael's dominance, the Bible offers a path of protection. Scripture speaks of the power of God's judgment and the righteousness that can shield believers from harm. The Book of Psalms reminds us that God is a refuge in times of trouble, and those who walk in his light are safe from the darkness of Samael's reach. Samael's legacy is one of fear, justice, and inevitability, a figure who rules over life and death, challenging mankind's faith and forcing all to confront their mortality. Whether he serves as a punishment or a purifier, his presence in religious lore serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the power of divine will. Molech, a name whispered in fear across the ancient world. A god of fire, a demon of destruction, demanding the unthinkable, the sacrifice of children. The Bible warns against him, condemning the horrors of his worship. In Leviticus 18 verse 21, God commands, "Do not give any of your children to be sacrificed to Molech." Yet, despite this divine warning, kings and nations fell into his grip. 1 Kings 11 verse 7 reveals that even King Solomon in his later years built altars for Molech, turning from God to darkened rituals. Born from the fires of Canaanite religion, Molech was no mere idol. He was a force of destruction, a tempter luring desperate men into wickedness. His towering bronze statue stood with outstretched arms, where infants were laid before the flames, their cries silenced by the pounding of ritual drums. A prince among demons, Molech was more than a false god. He was a corrupter, a deceiver, a ruler of bloodshed. His influence stretched far beyond the ancient world. From the valleys of Gehenna to secret cults and forbidden texts, his worship persisted in shadows. Judaism and Christianity view him as the ultimate perversion, a demon who feeds on innocence, a symbol of unholy sacrifice. Yet his name echoes even in modern times. Conspiracy theories claim his influence lingers in elite circles, while horror films and literature invoke his name as a being of ultimate evil. But Molech was never beyond defeat. The prophets of Israel tore down his altars, and in Jeremiah 32 verse 35, God declared his worship an abomination. His legacy may haunt the pages of history, but faith, prayer, and the power of righteousness stand against his return. A warning remains: stay vigilant. The spirit of Molech thrives wherever the innocent are cast aside for power. His fires may have dimmed, but his darkness seeks new ways to rise. Baal, a name that once echoed through the ancient Canaanite temples, whispered in rituals of power and blood. Once worshipped as a mighty storm god, Baal was later condemned as a demonic force, a deceiver who led nations astray. From the pages of the Bible, his name surfaces again and again. Judges 2 verses 13 and 1 Kings 18:19, Jeremiah 19 verse 5, always tied to corruption, idolatry, and child sacrifice. The Israelites, despite warnings, fell into his worship, erecting altars and offering their sons and daughters to the fire. It was Elijah who stood against his prophets on Mount Carmel, calling down fire from heaven to prove that Baal was powerless before the true God. But Baal's origins run deeper than the Bible. His roots trace back to ancient Ugarit, where he was revered as the rider of the clouds, the god of fertility, storms, and war. Over time, his image transformed from a deity of abundance to a dark and insidious demon. In Christian theology, he became synonymous with Beelzebub, the Lord of the Flies, a prince of hell ruling over deception and destruction. His influence was not just spiritual, it was political. Kings and rulers turned to him for power, sacrificing their own people in exchange for victory and wealth. His atrocities were brutal: child sacrifices, temple prostitution, and rituals so vile that God called them an abomination. Baal was not just a false god. He was a force of manipulation, demanding allegiance through terror. In the demonic hierarchy, he is said to be a high-ranking prince of hell, one of Satan's most trusted deceivers. Some believe he still operates in secret, disguised in modern systems of control, whispering through false doctrines and corrupt leadership. His name has resurfaced in occult circles, woven into literature, film, and even conspiracy theories linking him to global power structures. But his downfall was certain. Time and again, his worship was eradicated, his temples reduced to dust. The Bible warns against him, urging believers to resist his influence. Ephesians 6 verse 12 reminds us that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers. To stand against Baal is to stand against deception itself. He was a god. He became a demon. And his name still lingers in the shadows of history. Dagon, the half-man half-fish demon god. Dagon, a name whispered through the echoes of time. An ancient deity of the Philistines, revered as a god of grain and fertility, yet lurking beneath his worship was something far more sinister. Depicted as a hybrid, a man from the waist up and a fish below, his influence spread across Mesopotamia, where he was linked to Enlil, the storm god, and later to the darkest corners of demonology. The Bible records his presence in Judges 16 verse 23, where the Philistines celebrated Samson's capture in Dagon's temple, mocking the power of the God of Israel. But their mockery was short-lived. As Samson called upon the Lord, the temple crumbled, crushing worshippers beneath the weight of their own idolatry. In 1 Samuel 5 verses 2-7, the Ark of the Covenant was placed before Dagon's statue, and by morning the idol lay shattered, its head and hands severed, a chilling sign of divine supremacy over false gods. Dagon's worship demanded blood, human sacrifices, rituals of appeasement. He was not just a god of harvests but a devourer of souls, an oppressor of Israel, leading nations into corruption and war. Though not named as a prince of hell, his enduring presence in history suggests he was more than a mere idol, perhaps a fallen entity, a ruler in the demonic order, operating under the shadow of Baal and Moloch. His cult stretched beyond Philistia. Some scholars connect Dagon to the myth of Oannes, the fishman who brought forbidden knowledge to humanity, much like Azazel of the Watchers. Was Dagon merely a symbol, or was he something more? A deceiver, an entity that manipulated the ancient world? Even today his name lingers in fiction, conspiracy, and occult symbolism. H.P. Lovecraft's Dagon paints him as a cosmic terror. Some claim his imagery persists in secret societies, a veiled reference to ancient, aquatic deities. Yet, no demon stands undefeated. His image was shattered before the Arkansas. His temples fell at the hands of God's chosen. The lesson remains: false gods and their servants cannot stand against the Almighty. For those who seek protection, the answer lies in Scripture. You shall have no other gods before me. Dagon's reign has long since ended. But in the shadows of history, his name is still whispered, a warning of the darkness that once was. Azazel, the scapegoat demon of the wilderness. Azazel. A name shrouded in mystery, fear, and ancient ritual. First mentioned in the Bible in Leviticus 16 verses 8 to 10, Azazel is the entity to whom a scapegoat, laden with the sins of Israel, was sent into the wilderness. But who, or what, was Azazel? Ancient Jewish texts, including the Book of Enoch, describe Azazel as a fallen angel, one of the rebellious watchers who descended to corrupt mankind. He is said to have taught humanity the secrets of war, weapons, and sorcery, leading to untold destruction. His punishment? Imprisonment in the abyss until the final judgment. Some traditions see Azazel as a demonic ruler, dwelling in desolate places, feeding on human corruption. Others link him to the desert gods of ancient Canaan, a spirit of chaos and sacrifice. In Christian theology, he is often associated with Satan himself, an agent of deception drawing souls away from God. Throughout history, Azazel's influence has been tied to sacrificial rituals, heresies, and even demonic possession. While he is not explicitly named in exorcisms, his legacy lingers in symbols of rebellion and forbidden knowledge. Today, Azazel appears in literature, films, and occult lore, his name whispered among secret societies and conspiracy theories. His image is often used as a symbol of defiance against divine order. But how does one guard against such a presence? The Bible warns of the dangers of wandering into the wilderness of sin, of allowing deception to lead one astray. Prayer, faith, and the armor of God remain the ultimate protection against forces unseen. Azazel, the demon of the wilderness, the corrupter of men. A name that echoes through history, a reminder of the darkness that still lurks beyond the light. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more video. I would like to know the next topic you would want me to talk about. Leave it in the comments.